Hello and welcome to our docuseries. Today we will be discussing the New World Information and Communication Order, also known as the NWICO and the McBride Commission. The NWICO developed as a debate in the United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organization between third world countries and first world countries over media control. Third world countries wanted radio and television that expressed what was going on inside their own countries rather than focusing on what was happening in the Western world. The United States and other first world countries controlled the media, meaning third world countries were underrepresented. These countries also felt the news was biased against their own countries, only demonstrating negative aspects of their countries. This led to the creation of the NWICO. The New World Information and Communication Order attempted to challenge United States imperialism by allowing third world countries to create their own media representations. Through the position of the opponents and proponents, steps toward policy implementation, and controversies surrounding the policy, the NWICO ultimately failed and expanded the reach of Western democracy globally through the influence of Western media in third world countries.
The NWICO seemed like a solution to the influence of Western media. Many third world countries wanted to establish their own media. According to Fitzmaurice, Western media, technological developments in communications, and the free flow of information restricted national development and unity in third world countries. The lack of necessary communication networks, the Western culture presented by Western media, and the lack of local media attention negatively impacted how third world countries were viewed by the Western world. Third world countries were worried that Western media would also focus more on sensational disasters rather than the development issues within the countries. Overall, third world countries wanted NWICO to pass because it would allow them to create their own media representation. However, first world countries were against the NWICO. McChesney wrote about P. Sherman, the president of News Corp, talked about the need to have marketplace dominance where people are forced to deal with you. First world countries wanted to continue to have a marketplace dominance over the media. Also, the United States believed in the idea of global village. Professor H. Molana positions a narrative toward the perspective of the globally disenfranchised. The global village is rendered deprived from the most basic tools of modern communication, information, and knowledge. Molana perceives that the ideals of a global village has only created a hierarchy of chiefs. By keeping third world countries part of the global village, these countries were deprived of creating their own media representation. Fitzmaurice commented that the opponents of the NWICO, such as the United States, argued that NWICO was an infringement of First Amendment rights by not allowing freedom of the press. First world countries argued that NWICO would prevent freedom of speech within media. Arguments also continued about the United Nations would implement the NWICO.
Steps were taken to implement the new WICO through analyzing global media coverage, through the development of NWICO, and through the individualistic culture of the United States. The imbalances of media coverage globally were talked about for many years before providing solutions for the problem. In the 1970s, there was a new declaration of media that tested the boundaries set forth by the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 55 representatives from the different third world nations, the non-aligned movement, wanted a significant change in the way media was produced and distributed around the world. The NWICO was developed to try and reverse the existing form of coverage around the world, or at least balance the flow of communications and change news media coverage that ignored less affluent nations, which is a basic human right. This led to the McBride Commission. The McBride Commission was created to develop possible solutions to the ongoing problems of communication and information flow. In the 1980s, the McBride Commission put forth 82 recommendations outlined to help create order and transform the previous flow of communication among nations. The individualistic culture of America and the UK led to the veto of NWICO by rendering the policy ineffective and led to the withdrawal of both nations.
The NWICO sparked many controversies about the development of media in third world countries. The imbalance of global information flows created controversy for the policy. The policy was centered around the idea of having free flow of information, but it seemed as though creating a balance amongst information providers as well as adhering to the public's interest was not taken care of. This was all a result of the McBride Commission. Palmer explains how the media in third world countries were overloaded with news about America and Western Europe. The flow of information received internationally is primarily originated in America, which represented 63%. Between 1974 and 1984, UNESCO's work with the NWICO caused the U.S. to completely withdraw from the organization in 1985. The creation of NWICO quickly encountered enormous hostility from both the United States and other Western nations. The debate was ultimately crushed with the effective withdrawal of the United States from the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, the limited access to media for developing countries of the Third World. The rising concern was centered upon who owns and controls the distribution of communication and for what purpose and intent. The concern about increased access to news about developing countries was primarily from the global south, as the fear threatens cultural identity and self-reliance. The NWICO emphasized the desire for third world nations to control the flow of communications across their borders rather than relying on Western media.
Ultimately, the NWICO failed and Western nations were able to implement imperialism. If the NWICO would have passed, it would have increased access to the public sphere for developing countries of the Third World. However, influence of Western imperialism won against Third World countries. Third World countries without the needed resources could not establish their own media. Overall, the United States imperialism won over the needs of Third World countries.
America represented fuck. Can you cut that out?
No, yeah.
Okay. Primarily originated in America. Represented. I can't fucking say it. I can't say it.
Representative?
Representative.
Just say which represents 63%.
Just stop in like a dramatic pause.
Okay. Which represents 63%.
63%.
Okay. I'm sorry, I just can't say
You're good.
it.
You're good.
Okay.
It's a fucked up word.
Okay.